Okay, we are live. This is going to be a socionics typing using Model A. The definitions and terminology will be reflective of that. At the end, included is potentially a DCNH subtype. And I will read off a couple of paragraphs off of a website in order to confirm if my hunch is correct. I'm going to be asking a series of questions. I would like for you to answer them without restriction. Don't feel the need to necessarily feed me any answers. Just answer openly and honestly. Um, and also, this is not me telling you your type. This is me giving you my suggestion on what I think you are. So use this as another data point in crafting your own identity, for only you know yourself to the highest degree.
Okay, give me 1 second. I just want to finish this real quick. Uh,
Sure.
maybe he's not online. I was going to invite him over.
Oh no. Well, you can give the recording to him, and I guess you could just like stream it, and then both of you could watch it or something if you want.
Oh wait, here he is. All right. Well, I sent him a text, and if he shows up, he shows up. Like you said, I have the recording, so let's
Yep.
continue.
All right. We're gonna start with the first question. How do you respond to the emotions of others?
Hmm. Well, I think it depends on the context and what the emotion is. Um, I live with my mother right now. She can be a bit emotionally volatile. I try to work with her as best as I can, and if I find that it's not working, well, like we get into a fight, or not, well, hmm. So I should probably say how the fight would start. She can be a bit emotionally unhealthy. She can wake up. She's bad in the mornings. Um, hmm, I usually try talking with her calmly. If some if, post fight, I like meta talks. Trying to find out like how to better communicate with each other to avoid potential fights happening again. Um, I started a swear jar where we put $10 into the jar if either one of us swears. That also kind of like makes people think twice before getting hostile and kind of escalating the fight to the next level. And I've noticed that's made a huge impact. Um, hmm, I think I'm pretty good at negotiating fights. One of the fights that we got into was about responsibilities, where I eventually sat down with some paper and I went over everything, and it was very clear that I was already doing more. But even then, I did pick up an extra responsibility. Um, this was when my grandmother was alive, though. Um, she died a few months ago. Anyway, that's not relevant.
I'm sorry.
Um, yeah, it's fine. Um, yeah, so I think I'm pretty good at handling fights. I think if she was actually with just about anyone other than me, that she would have a much harder time. Um, yeah. Anything more specific?
Um, I think that's probably a pretty good example. Is there any other examples that come to mind? Maybe perhaps personal friendship relationships, or with like coworkers, or with schoolmates, things of that nature,
We're
classmates.
talking just run of the mill fights.
Doesn't have to necessarily be
No.
fights. Could be somebody who's upset. It could be somebody who's happy, for example.
Well, wait. I thought this was all about arguments and fights. No,
Oh, it's
how do I
it's
react in a fight?
it's just emotions in
Like,
general. Conflict is a question that I get into, and it's like more about like leveraging your ideas past another person or negotiating when people are trying to take your spot, those sort of things. This is just more a general overview of how people respond to
all
others
right. Well,
when
if
you're
I
emotional.
find that somebody is in pain, I will help work them through it. If anything, if I find out someone's going through pain, I find it a little attractive in a way that I can actually be there for somebody. Um, I think that's one of the reasons I wound up with some regrettable friendships, to be honest, because they were going through a lot and uh, I was kind of there for them, but they were very unhealthy. Um, yeah, and pretty much everyone in my life kind of like turned unhealthy and used unhealthy coping mechanisms with certain instant gratification methods to cope. Um, I think. Oh, all right. So I feel like I'm very well. Big. I am in good control of my emotions. Sometimes I will use emotions as a tool. I will let myself like something, whether that is a kink of a partner, whether that is the feeling that you get after a workout. Um, you can let yourself like something if it's conducive in some way or if it helps somebody else. Um, I find using it that way as a tool. Sometimes I get a little overwhelmed when listening to sad music. I actually cry quite often. But usually, music is a stimulus,
I'm jealous.
or mhm,
Well,
or
I'm jealous of you crying,
what's that?
but I was just being silly
I,
because
I
like
I do have some really beautiful music. I'm not gonna lie. Um,
I can't access
yeah,
those emotions sometimes.
and also journaling helps you get in touch with your emotions. By the way, I would highly recommend that. I have a grateful journal that I use. All right, emotions. Oh, when I was unhealthier, um, sometimes I would just look at my life and I would just be dissatisfied. But I'm seeing things. Yeah, uh, I am confident about where things are going, and I don't believe that is uh the case anymore, which is absolutely fantastic.
All right.
Yeah, I think I handle emotions fairly well for the most part.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next question now. Can you tell me about any reoccurring problems you've been having in your life?
Reoccurring is a key word here. I mean,
Yes.
I've had huge, absolutely colossal problems in my life. I was like 420 pounds. I guess the reoccurring problem is you're fat, but I mean, I've lost 170 pounds. I'm
Congratulations.
still losing weight. Thank you. I'm gonna lose another like 70 pounds. And then I have plans after that. That's not what you asked, so I'm not gonna monologue on that.
Well, you could talk about maybe like some of the triggers or some of the things that you think might play into the feedback loop of overeating or things of that nature. I mean, listen, that's personal, of course, and we don't have to talk about it.
Well, I don't overeat. I've lost 170 pounds. I don't think you can lose 170 pounds while overeating.
Yeah, yeah, fair point.
Are you,
Wrong. Cut off your legs.
okay, yes, actually, very good point. Um, all right, so re-ask the question.
Can you tell me about any reoccurring problems you've been having in your life?
Okay, reoccurring problem. Um, I've been doing better, but I need to be more. Well, I need to procrastinate less. I have a problem with procrastination. I guess that would be a reoccurring problem. Um, I'm trying to fix a problem where I'm not as industrious as I would like, and I think I'm better than I was before. Um, Reoccurring problem. Hmm. I mean, usually I try to fix things so they don't reoccur. Like when I have to empty the dehumidifier, I set a pump and a hose to the washing machine. I don't like things reoccurring, so I usually try to put a stop to it if that's the case. Um, Reoccurring. Man, I feel like I should have something.
Long time no talk, Q.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure something out, man. Oh, you're talking to her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's one of my friends from another server, and we're both EII
I would
harmonizings.
say
So interesting fun fact.
depression could be a reoccurring problem for me. Yeah, I can get depressed.
I feel you there, buddy. Um, we can move on if you'd like.
Yeah, I thought I answered it. All right. Yeah, let's move on, I guess.
Yeah, because you're pretty thorough. I think that's enough data
Are
points.
you okay if I listen in?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, just
Oh,
no
Okay.
sorry.
talk. Not you. Okay.
All right. Can you tell me some of your hopes, dreams, and aspirations?
I want to have a kid. I want to have a kid really badly. Um, it was the entire reason I kind of like lost all the weight and was motivated to cut everyone out of my life and make a change. Is I seen that dream getting further and further away, and if I didn't do something, I was going to lose it. Um, yeah, I want to have a kid. I mean, I have like things I'm going to do to get there. Um, I would like to maybe do some traveling too once that kid is, established. Have a loving relationship with someone who values me, is um, compromising, it respects me, and I can talk to them about anything. I want like a safe place where like we can talk about anything, everything's cool. That um, where we accept each other. Yeah, I can understand her. She actually cares to understand me back. We care about each other. Um, we're in the with the kid thing mutually, equally. We're highly invested in each other and the kid. Um, I can't think of anything better than that.
Okay.
I mean, is that sufficient?
Yes, it is.
I mean, I have other things I plan on doing.
Well, you can talk a little bit more about those if you'd like.
I would like a career, not a job. Something I enjoy doing. I think there's a danger in putting all of your hopes and dreams for being happy in life to any extent into a relationship that could potentially go sour. Um, so I would like to have a fulfilling, meaningful career that I can fall back on. it would be nice if it made money, but I just don't want to be miserable. So I need to enjoy this career.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's extremely important to me. Um, I want to be a really good father. Um, it would be nice if I had some friends that were also like compatible and meaningful, and like I met someone here that's actually really cool. So that's a potential. Um, yeah, the career. Oh, I want to look good. I want to look very good. That's more immediate. I want to get surgery over in Istanbul after I lose my weight. Maybe get a tattoo by Rox. She has her tattoos in the Museum of Modern Art. Um, I want to finally date. I've never really dated, man. Crazy. I want to be attractive. Um, yeah,
The song "I Want to Be
definitely want to be.
Adored" comes to mind. If I can think of the artist, I'll send it to you. But I definitely think it's really funny because the type of the artist I think probably correlates. So
I'll try to restrain myself from googling it.
it's a really cute song. I appreciate it. It's kind of funny.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna move on. I think that's definitely some good information there. You are elected the dictator of your home country for 6 months to solve its problems. What do you do?
Only 6 months. What can you do in 6 months with Congress? I can't do anything. All
You're a
right.
dictator.
Oh, dictator. All right. Well, let's be optimistic, I guess. Let's see. The hell can I do in 6 months? I'd like education reform, I suppose, and I would like. Well, this is unreal. Well, whatever. Let's assume my changes stick, right? Then we're gold. All right, let's do education reform. Let's maybe have different teaching methods. I don't really care for the whole like blanket teach that they do. Let's have like more individual teaching methods. Maybe learn different sort of learning styles for different people. Um, Once learning styles are established and teachers are paid way more, maybe like celebrities type of deal. Like a teacher goes into the bar and she goes, "Oh, what are you?" He's like, "A teacher." That should be a huge turn on. They should be going home and banging. Um, So after high education standards are established, teachers are superstars. That means people will, in general, um, be smarter eventually. We can have better voting standards where instead of putting all our reliance on a republic, that people can actually have a vote and a say of what happens in our country. So everyone can get cast a vote, which would be amazing. I mean, not just for president, for everything. Maybe there should still be some form of republic that is totally reformed because it's totally corrupt. Maybe in the future there'll be like a chat GBT, but you only gave me like 6 months. So yeah, so uh non-corrupt Congress. That way, people can all have a say in what happens in our country. I think that would be amazing. Um, Maybe police reform because that's pretty fucked up. Um, that's very fucked up, and that's something that should have already happened. Um, Man, I wish I could think more. Um, I mean, I kind of like the idea of UBI and then encouraging automation, but at the same time, like I don't want to be the person that encourages that and then it goes wrong. There hasn't been. I don't know. That's a possibility. I'm not sure about that one. That could be a bad thing. Maybe. I like the idea of it though. So yeah, so police reform, education reform, people actually having a say because of those things, and what happens in their country. I think that would be a very good start. Maybe fix our homeless problem. That's pretty rampant. Um, yeah. Ah,
Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on. Do you find it easy to relax?
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm going to be honest. It depends. I think that's context dependent. Um, Sometimes.
Sometimes. So, what are some situations where it's difficult to relax?
Hmm. Well, you don't want to miss opportunities. Um, like there was a paraplegic that I interviewed last week at my local nursing home to see if I could convince him to move into my house. If I had to just relax, not gotten on that, I could have missed that opportunity. I mean, it didn't pan out anyway, but so there's some like deadline on something, and you don't want to relax. I mean, relaxing is not always the smartest move. There's sometimes reasons you don't want to relax. Maybe mm, there's certain focal points in your life where you need to take action. Mm. And there's certain times where it's safe to relax. I mean, there really should be a mix of both. Having too much of one is going to pretty essentially ruin your life.
Agreed. Is your room clean?
Okay. I like Jordan B. Peterson, so yes, my room is very clean.
Haha.
My bed is made.
When you do clean, why and how?
I clean because I like to see. Oh, what do you mean how? I mean, you clean it. All right. I also keep like some organizers on my like closet. I mean, you know, that thing's OP as hell. Love it. Matches everything too, which is great. Um, all right. The reason I clean my room is so I can convince myself that I'm a person that loves themselves. If my room was to be dirty and Slavic like, then I would have to look at my room and be like, well, this person is either a Slav or doesn't really care too much about their environment because and that indirectly correlates to like you having low self worth. I believe that if I keep my room clean and my environment, nice and well for the most part, I miss a lot of stuff, but I mean, says my mom anyway. But at least my room. Yeah, at least the room clean. Um, I will love myself more for it because it'll be a reflection on me, and I will somehow acknowledge that, and then other people will see that I am more confident as a result, which is fantastic. Along with appearance, being able to look in the mirror and see like this guy really takes care of himself, being able to see that I take care of myself through my diet, just all of your actions are pretty much a vote of who you're going to be. And if you keep voting against yourself and you should expect other people to see that.
Hmm.
Oh,
Very
I'm like
interesting.
super cold. That being said, I do believe in a growth mindset. I do not believe in a fixed mindset that you cannot change. I think you as a person is very dynamic.
Okay. All right, I think it's enough
And if you
information.
want to be different, you just start casting different votes. Know what you want, have an aim, then cast your votes to do that, be that. Oh,
All right. Well, I just formulated another question. I probably should write that one down.
also, about the earlier question about my emotions, um, there was a point in my life where I don't think I was as good of handling them. Well, I was. I think on my day to day, I was, but there'd be times where I would get totally like sucked in by them, especially when I was depressed. Well, I don't know if that was just a symptom of depression, but I would kind of like sit there in them, and it was awful. Um, you know, ah,
Okay. Do you hesitate or proceed with caution?
mm, mm. Yeah, to some extent. I mean, it, I don't know what spectrum we're talking about or the situation, but yeah, I like to think things out beforehand. Sure.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say on that before we move on?
No, I'm good.
How do you handle conflict with others? Now, this was the question earlier that I was talking about.
How do I handle conflict with others? Well, it depends on the conflict. You have to try to find out what their intentions are, why they're angry, maybe try to resolve it, offer solutions possibly. I mean, there's a reason they're angry. They're just not blindly angry for no reason. Talk to them, have good communication, figure it out. Um, don't be so personally invested all the time. They're not. I'm assuming they're just not being like toxic for the sake of being toxic. I mean, if that's the case, then it's different. Then you need to stand up for yourself, and you need to remove this person from your life completely. Or we set boundaries. Yeah, you set boundaries first, I suppose. Which is a skill that I've gotten better at throughout the years. Uh, people.
Mm-hmm. How do you form your moral values?
Can we take a pause? Because I need to pee.
Sure.
Nah,
Oh no, I
you're not
thought my
wrong.
internet went out.
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That was needed though.
Oh, you're
Can,
Welcome back.
yeah. I tried to hurry up, especially when I heard you guys. Oh, not the. Anyway. Um. All right. So, what was the question again?
How do
Something
you?
about how do I form my moral values, right?
Yes.
Um, I can have some strong values, but hmm, I appreciate honesty. Um, I don't like finding out people are lying to me. Um, oh, that's not value. That's not the question. Can you give me an example of what you mean by that? I want some context.
Okay. So it's like you're saying that. Here's an example. There is this problem in society. So in order to fix this problem, you create a rule. And so it's like, okay, well, I don't want this to happen, so I will do this instead. Um, or you could say that this situation uh, leaves an impression on me, and then like I feel differently about it, and then therefore don't want to contribute to this. You could say that you witness other people struggling with this, and so this is something that you would like to strive for. There's a few different ways.
All right. Well, I suppose if we're putting other people into this context, I mean, um, at one point, try to be a good person. You want to be able to like yourself. If you have to, I mean, you're always going to have to live with yourself. So you definitely want to like yourself. You don't want something that's going to make you regretful. Like maybe, yeah. I think that's the perfect way to put it. You want to do things that are going to be in line with who you are. So you do not dislike yourself. That is extremely important. But I think you're asking something more specific, if I'm correct.
Yes. Uh,
So what type of things make you dislike yourself versus like yourself? Is that the type of thing you're asking?
well, I guess really what I'm asking is so that's like a strategy for success. I would definitely say. But let's we're thinking about like so rules about the way that people should conduct them, which I guess is the way that you answered, based off of like societal reasons. So I guess what you said does kind of fit underneath that umbrella to a degree. So but maybe think about something that you would tell another person in order to make the society run in a smoother way.
You are stronger than you think you are. Is that good? Um, what do you mean? I don't know what you mean.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It just kind of sounds like
Now,
self.
what would I tell somebody? What would I tell somebody if what? I want to answer this question correctly.
I mean, I think you are. I think you are.
Well, let's give it one more shot, though.
Okay. It's
Oh, unless you want to move on, it's up to you.
no.
It's your
I just thought
interview.
it was kind of funny. What you said. But don't think that it's like serious or anything. But
What
yeah.
are
I don't know.
they?
Like if you had to make a rule for your constituents to follow, what would it be?
Constituents. So I have followers. Is that what you mean?
Or peers, we'll say.
That's the question? Be a good person. I don't know. Don't be an asshole. Are we all right? So what kind of
I think
What
you've
kind of
actually
rules should people follow?
you've
What?
actually answered it in a way that I can pretty thoroughly deconstruct what you said. Actually,
Alright.
all right. Okay, sorry, my brain's like I can just hear the like that dial-up internet sound from like 1999 playing in my head. I know you've actually
It's
kind
so
of.
fun.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say your voice reminds me of VIP Pigeon, who is also an INFP. Like just like the emotionality in it, which I find is funny.
Yes, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I can't get
Yeah.
rid of it. Yep. Okay, I think you've kind of answered this one already, but we're gonna re-ask the question for the sake of continuity. You didn't answer this question, but you kind of answered another question.
Whatever. Yeah,
That covered
got
it.
it.
Um,
Well, let's go.
how do you respond to your own? Well, no, sorry. How do you process your own emotions?
Um. Hmm. Well, it depends what the motion is. There's some times where I'll just sit there and listen to sad music for fucking half an hour to 45 minutes in the morning when no one's, awake. But other than that, I think journaling is extremely conducive for reflecting. If you don't know what you're feeling and you read it, boom, all of a sudden it's more clear when you're writing things down. Also, are we talking about spur of the moment? Like someone else, an external factor is making you like upset? Like, are we talking about just like when you're alone by yourself? Because I feel like they're two different scenarios. I feel while someone else is angry, I navigate it extremely well. Um, for sure. I feel like I'm very good at resolving situations. Um, I think that I control my own emotions very well as well. Um, because I can use them as a tool to motivate myself and to make myself feel better about myself, and controlling my environment and whatnot to reflect me, and which makes me feel better. Wearing nice clothes, getting nice shoes, like nobles, and making sure my clothes all match in a certain way and I look presentable. Um, and I people will start seeing me differently, and that makes me feel great. Um, yeah, I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I'm gonna be honest. Like I use it as like a tool sometimes. So pretty good. Anything else? You can help me out with some situation. Wait, are you talking?
No.
Oh, all right. I seen your mic go on. I'm like, I know Discord's been glitching lately. Ah, yeah. I mean, before when I was depressed, I mean, that was terrible. I would just let it happen. Um, sometimes I no. Um, all right. See, this is the thing. Sometimes when I say something, I know like enough about the enneagram to like know contextually what I'm saying. So I want this. I do feel like I indulge in emotions. Like I'll sit there and be like, and not in a negative way. Like I have some beautifully sad songs, but I know I don't want to like feel like I'm playing into something because that's disgusting. But yeah, I have some beautifully sad songs that I have on my playlist, and I vetted my songs very well. And um, I think that's the time when I'm the most emotional, is when I'm listening to certain sad songs that invoke those feelings within me. Um, I didn't want to, shamelessly just come out and fucking say that because I know, like, the context of it. But I do, yeah, it's something I do. So,
Okay.
I think that covers my emotional spectrum. Oh, thanks for stopping by the way, Lazzy Rose. I appreciate it. Teacup, are you VIP pitching by chance?
I am not.
Ah, you suck. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was
All right.
gonna say you sound slightly like another.
Oh, everyone says that. I want to meet another. I hear he's like, oh, an ESTP. People say he's a little immature, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
irony is he's Delta NF. He is
Yeah.
he's IEE, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty two contradictory statements, but he is pretty aggressive, and you'll actually find that with people who are TI polar, is because well they'll have TE in the suggestive slot, and so they'll push other people around in sort of like this hobbyist manner, where they find it like interesting and entertaining. There's like the lack of stability because that's what like normalizing. You know, when I was talking to you about DCNH, is that what's like associated with like TI and FI that they smooth things over, they make them more palatable. You know, for TI, they distill it down so it's more fundamental, and then so like it's going slower to understand it. And then with the FI, it's like being considerate, understanding the implications, like the different observations, and so it's like you find when you have TI or even FI in that position, that ability to slow yourself down and to really to really think about the consequences of the actions, you know, to put the things together, to process the information, is actually something that they do less. And so Delta NF or not, you can find that IEs can actually be quite aggressive. It's very interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon. They're not all like that. I think that it's, you know, a specific subset or subtype of them that can kind of behave in those ways, but it does happen, and it is pretty apparent. Very
You're an
fiery.
IE. No, you're an IEI? I'm not sure. No, I think you're IE, right?
I'm not.
I'm still learning socionics. I just got the booklet the other day.
Yeah. I am Delta NF though. I'm EII. I am the harmonizing subtype. So NISI is more apparent. And I think that's why people mistype me as NI base so frequently.
Mm.
We're going to go ahead and move on. Because this
Sounds
one,
good.
yeah, this one's taken a while. So, uh, do you ever categorize the external world?
Mm. Give me an example.
These things have similar characteristics, so you group them together. You can see things as being correct or incorrect, you know, so you categorize it kind of as right versus wrong. You'll see things by basically the ways that you can describe the object. That's kind of basically what I'm asking.
I don't think so, but at the same time, if you were just describing in general TE, um, I think I've gotten a bit better at it. But if we're just talking about exactly definition of what you're saying, as far as I can tell, I don't. Um, hmm. Can you explain it a little more? I want to
So
make sure.
you know, describing things concretely, describing things basically by its characteristics. I mean, that's kind of basically what I'm trying to get at. I really don't know what else I can say. I mean,
Um, no, I'm gonna say no.
okay, I don't think we need to go any more down that avenue. I definitely think that that kind of speaks for itself. Um, all right. Do you take an interest in history?
Nope. I don't think I ever have, as a matter of fact. Let me make sure.
We'll substitute that question. Do you like to travel?
Hmm. Uh, if I can, yes, I do like to travel.
Yeah, you
Uh,
did kind of bring that up, but yeah, expound, please.
right now, I would like to go to, well, the main traveling that I was talking about was Turkey, Istanbul, and that was to get my surgeries done because their surgeries are cheaper over in Istanbul and Turkey. American dollar goes further. Surgeons are still really good. It's actually the capital of the world that where people like get surgeries and stuff. So I mean, although I am excited to see the culture for sure. I just wish I wasn't going to be like insane after like 4 or 5 surgeries, all in one day. I mean, I don't know how much I'll get out, but I am very excited about going to see Turkey, and I would like to go to other places as well. More immediately in the future, I'll probably focus on um, cities near me. I have New York, maybe an hour away from me, and I haven't gone nearly as much as I should have. I also have Boston within an hour radius. I have Albany and Worcester. So there are places that I have options to go to that are not that expensive if I choose to go out. Um, I don't go out very often, but I feel like when I do choose to, it should be meaningful. Also, I like some of these places as potential dating options to bring somebody since they're all fairly cheap to get to via Greyhound bus. Um, so if I wanted to go on a day trip with somebody, it would be accessible. Anything more?
No, I think that's good. Um, are you open to new ideas or interpretations?
Yeah, I believe so. I consider myself open-minded. I consider it one of my stronger qualities. Um, I find it annoying sometimes when other people aren't.
Okay.
Unless they know something I don't, but I mean, like, no, they still should be open-minded.
Okay. Moving on to the next. How do you manage time?
Um, okay, when I was younger, I was fucking terrible at this, but since I've started losing weight, and I felt like I was so far away from. All right, so there started to ended up being pretty much a ticking bomb clock, whatever you want to call it, and I felt like my time was pretty much very limited to the point of me missing the fact that the whole having a kid experience. Eventually, the person I want a relationship with, maybe she won't be attractive anymore. Maybe, yeah, this needed to happen now, if not earlier. Um, so to that end, I have done much better at managing my time, but that was never a strength of mine in the past. I know I get up early. Well, I still kind of fuck up on my. Well, I established some guidelines to help me with a habit tracker that's I'm not currently using, but I need to start using it. I wake up early. I had a manual shut off on my internet to help me maintain going to bed at the same time. That's off right now. When I fix my water roller, which I'm gonna do tomorrow, and tell myself that for like 2 weeks, but when I fix that, I'm gonna put my manual shut off router back on. I might start the habit tracker. Some of these habits stuck. Like they stuck long enough, but then maybe there's like a couple I would like to instill. But I mean, I don't know. And I've never really been a big habit person, but I read a nice book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, that helped me with that. Um, and I've been trying to do better with it. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. Waking up early, I find I'm more productive in the morning to some extent. So I mean, that's always good. I mean, I think Discord might have killed my productivity a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. But I'm working on stuff. Oh, I take nootropics. That helps. Yep.
Precisely are nootropics?
Brain vitamins. They help with dopamine and stuff like that.
Okay. Interesting, interesting.
Yeah, I got a big stack of them. I take.
Would you consider yourself good at predicting the future?
I sure as hell hope so. Um, Realistically, let's see. I personally would. I like to think. I think about things quite a bit. I think about the future a lot, a lot, a lot. Um, yes, yes, I do. I think I'm absolutely fucking amazing at it.
Okay.
I even try to count, like maybe give myself a little wiggle room too, because there are some things I miss. So I'll give myself like a little bit of slack as far as like weight goals and whatnot. Was get by 200 pounds by the end of the year. I'm actually a little ahead of schedule, so I could probably get a little lower. But I mean, I think it's important to set an attainable goal, with some slack. That way, I don't feel absolutely devastated when I don't reach it, which could impede my progress. Um, yeah.
Okay. Man, that actually gave me some interesting information about one of the dichotomies that I don't really use as much in typing. So, I actually got some pretty good information out of that I wasn't necessarily thinking about. So, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next now.
Hell yeah, man! You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you. We're almost done. And I also know pretty certainly what I think your DCNH is.
All right. Do you know if this is the same system Key uses or Lamb Sauce? They gave me some.
I use the same system that Key uses. Lamb sauce kind of includes some other things from like different systems that I don't use. So I'm basically, and Key and I both have some disagreements that we don't see eye to eye on, but the Key and I both use Socionics Model A. Lamb sauce I think
Oh,
focuses more on Model G, and I do actually use a sliver of Model G, and that's outside of the DCNH, which is Model G.
interesting. Thank you.
Kalinko based. So yeah. Um, how do you handle criticism?
Well, it depends on the intention of the criticism and who it's coming from. If it's coming from a source that I trust, like, and I don't think it's coming from a place of maliciousness, um, I have to assume that they know something I don't, and that they're seeing something that I don't, and I very much hear them out. If it's coming from somebody that is unhealthy and I feel like they're insulting me as a cope, then I will address it assertively. And if it is unresolved and I feel like it's going to continue to happen, I will remove them from my life. I don't need someone being toxic around me. External factors factor into who you end up being, and that will change me. Um, and I'm not going to let that happen. But I mean, as long as the person's coming from like good intentions and stuff, I take criticism extremely well.
Okay.
It's just really about intentions, honestly. I mean, even if the criticism I know is wrong, if they had good intentions, I can explain to them why that's not the case, and I won't get really too flustered. If they have good intentions and they insist something is true when it isn't, I will get annoyed. Especially if the person is very stubborn and closed-minded, then I'll probably get fairly upset, and I will then set boundaries. And as long that we can have a different opinion, as long as they like pretty much respect my space and autonomy, after I set those boundaries, because we can talk about it, but if they're, like I said, closed-minded and stubborn, and like I really don't have anything to say to them.
Okay. Are you good at getting what you want?
I like to think so. Depends what it is. I'm not really sure. I want to say yeah. I think I am. I mean, it depends on the context. That could mean so many different things. Um, um, yeah, I want to say I am. Um, I mean, I wanted to lose weight. I've lost 170 pounds. I mean, I think things through. Um, for sure. Um, and I do what it takes to get what I want. Really depends how much I want it. I think that's the real thing. Am I willing to sacrifice to get this thing? And that's something you actually have to consciously think about, because some people just think they want something and they don't. Yeah. So if I want something bad enough, yes, I'm very good at getting it.
Oh, wow. It's a good thing that I'm starting up after a short hiatus. I'm getting all sorts of questions that I'm thinking of now.
Like I really want a kid. Yeah, I'm very far from that goal, but
All right. Okay, we are nearing the end here. Completely forgot my TI question, which is kind of funny. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I asked you one of my TI questions. The other one I couldn't remember.
Hmm.
But you know what? I'm gonna ask this question. How do you know if something is good or not?
Can we have a little more? I know these are supposed to be intentionally vague, but can I have a little more context?
Sure. So, let's say you have a policy in the government, or you have like an object, like for example, cell phones, you have or cars or something like that. How do you know if those things are good or not? What are the metrics to which they're measured?
Hmm.
Deep thought, I know, but I have to make up for my TI deficit.
Well, you can do two different things. You can figure out what features it has. You can gauge the price point compared to other things versus the features it has. Um, you can possibly go to people on Reddit and see what they think and maybe narrow down a couple. And then once you figure out like a handful of ones that you know are worth your time to invest in looking at. So you say maybe you outsource maybe to the top 10. Now once you have those top 10, you actually figure out what the fuck they are and you compare them. And then you compare how much value you place into this object, and then you start narrowing them down and you pick one. Maybe you get to the top three, and then you really start spending your. I actually obsess a little over on picking the right objects. Took me like a couple weeks to pick out a blanket. It's a fucking nice blanket though. It didn't take 8 months to get in the fucking mail. Um, really shitty shipping kept delaying me. Anyway, sidetrack. Yeah. So you get a handful of them. I usually outsource the initial work or look at reviews just to get to the top 10. And then you figure out what you actually want. What's the purpose of this object? How much you're willing to spend on this object, and you compare them and you narrow it down until you get the one that's ideal for the job in the situation. That's how you pick something good. But you got to figure out what task, what is going to be required for the task. You have to understand the objects themselves.
Okay.
Uh,
I believe this is going to be the last round of questions before we get into the results portion.
okay.
Do you ever use the affect of others when making decisions? Examples of this
I
can
don't know.
include body language, facial expression, or tone of voice.
When making decisions about what?
The affect of others. And then the things that I listed were examples of affect.
I use them in conversation. You mean like when talking to others? What do you mean making decisions?
So for example,
Like
So, for example, you adjust the conversation that you're having with this person based off of your understanding of that person's emotions, off of how they're expressing them.
yeah, no, I do that. Um, actually, yeah, yeah, I can honestly say I do that. With my mom on a daily basis. I remember when I was a kid, my stepmom Jen would always give me the evil eye, and I was always like glancing over my shoulder to see if she was doing it, see if I was doing anything wrong. Um, she still does that to my little brother now. Um, let me make sure. I mean, I'm pretty confident I do this. I want to make sure. Um, I don't want to bias. Yeah, no, I do that because I like to figure out somebody's intention and motivation in a conversation. And to do that, you kind of have to gauge their body language and their facial expression. Otherwise, how are you going to have an actual conversation? At that point, you might as well just be blindfolded.
Mm-hmm. Surprisingly enthusiastic response to that question. But I think that could also be from external systems. This might be evidence that your mother is FE based. I think, but
No, I know what she is, so you know, if you want to know.
sure.
She's an ESFP, SEE7W8. Not even questionable. I know her very well as far as typology. I mean, I'm very good at typing others. I fucking notoriously am total ass at typing myself.
Okay. Well, all right. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. Do do you ever um do you ever intentionally change the emotions of others to achieve a goal?
Yeah, I would do that all the time to my grandmother, when I took care of her, and I would do it to the point where, I'd expect her to get kind of emotional towards when the sun was going down. It's actually a condition called sundowning. I bought a bag of big caramels, like, you get them in bulk, and strawberry candies for her. So whenever she started getting upset, I could throw on some Irish music. She used to love Irish music. So I know that's going to cheer her up. Um, oh, she's an ISFJ, was an ISFJ. So yeah, Irish music really hit the spot. She was getting a little cranky. Give her a bit of candy, give her something sweet. Um, with my mom, if we're about to get like an argument's getting heated, I'll convince her to smoke weed. Let's see. Or I'll have us take a break if she's like, because I know sometimes she needs space. Sometimes there's like nothing I can say to her to calm her down, and I know that it's unfortunate. I mean, I can try, and sometimes I can succeed, but I mean, she has a kind of unhealthy eye. So sometimes, just having a break or possibly smoking weed is like the best option. Um, yeah, and sometimes not to push at certain points, or maybe you even could, if it's going to be a argument that's going to stir up feelings, and you can anticipate that and wait for the right moment till maybe they're high or just in a good mood, and gonna receive this information better, instead of just dropping it on them whenever you feel like it. um what was the question again? I kind of got lost.
You answered it very thoroughly.
Oh,
Actually, in a
I
way,
don't remember what the question was.
well, I was asking, do you ever intentionally uh, change the emotions of someone else for some goals? Uh, is basically what I was asking.
Oh, I also could say that I intentionally made someone upset once, because they would not leave my house, and they were trying to get my mom to continue to be addicted to crack, and that one I changed her emotional state in a negative way. I'm not exactly happy about that, but it had to be done. Um,
Good on you.
Thank you. Yeah, I stuck up for myself finally. Took me long enough.
All right. So if there's nothing else that you have to say, I think we can move on to the results portion. I definitely have enough information here.
All right, sounds good. Oh. I was satisfied with how I answered these, and I felt like I was very authentic while doing so. So I am happy about that. I'm going to hit the bathroom again, but I can still hear you, so don't feel a need to wait for me.
Okay. Basically, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go, I'm going to describe the process that I'm going to go through in explaining the results. Um, we're going to start with three of the Reinin dichotomies, which are kind of important, and socionics. We're going to describe three of those, even though there is much more than that. Then after that, we're going to talk about quadra a little bit, and then I'm going to tell you how you've kind of scored in comparison to others.
Are
And
you
then
doing Enneagram as well, by the way?
your Enneagram type, I kind of have a hunch of what you would be. Um, I definitely.
What about tri-type? Do you do tri-type? Like we never actually discussed what we were even typing. I'm
Oh,
curious though. Could you go over that before we start?
well, I was basically discussing. I was discussing Model A socionics, as I stated kind of in the beginning of the typing session. But my methodology on Enneagram is coming along, and as I said, I'm currently polishing that up. And so I want to have Enneagram specific questions in order to answer Enneagram. But my hunch on what your Enneagram type would be, you might. Uh, I don't know. I don't even know if I want to die on that hill yet, man. I think I might need to do a little bit more research, so I feel more confident. So next week, if you'd
All
like
right.
to schedule that
If you're
Enneagram
not,
typing.
yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah, I hate vibe types, man. I don't trust them. I don't like them. I don't like to give them. But sometimes people ask me for them. Um, but yeah. So and then finally, after we go through the quadra, we're gonna go through all the elements and their blockings. Um, we're gonna start with rational versus irrational. And so in the MBTI type code, this is um, wait a second, sorry. In the Socionics type code, this is J versus P in the 4-letter variant. I typically use the 3-letter variant. I think it's much more simple. People know what you're talking about. When you use the 4-letter variant, people are going to think you're talking about MBTI or something. But this is the J versus P in the Socionics 4-letter typing code. So with rational types, these are going to be people who have a judging function at the base. These are going to be rigid people who are going to make decisions and are going to stick through to those decisions and follow through with them. So their ideas they have, they're going to, you know, fully incorporate them before they start on other projects. They're also people who are going to be rigid in the way that they kind of behave and respond to the world. They're also not going to be rigid in their body language, and speech, and movement and such. Um, and then the irrationals have a perceiving function at the base. These are going to be the wait and see people. They're going to be the open-ended ones. They're going to focus primarily on the information gathering, and also are going to be, or not the, yeah, and they're also going to be not rigid. They're going to be fluid in their body language, speech, and tone and stuff. But yeah, I definitely think that you are rational, so that you're rigid. I think a good example of your rational typeness is you losing an extreme amount of weight, also kind of regimenting the way that you're going about it, and then being very specific with your like measurements and goals and such. I think that you have a lot of ideas and things that you would like to bring to fruition, and that you give me a lot of good examples of how you're following through with those until the end. Um, I didn't see necessarily a lot of things of rigidity that you were bringing up in the struggles that you face. They were kind of more general. They seem to be more related to another one of the dichotomies that I'm going to talk about, which is not always the case that the person's things that they complain about are related to rational versus irrational. But yeah, I definitely saw a lot of that structured nature within you. Now we're going to move on to process versus result. And so with result types, these are going to be people who are going to say, well, of course we had the right process because we got the right result. They're going to be people who are going to skip around through the chapter. They're going to kind of gloss over things, and then once they get the appropriate result, they're going to be by any means necessary type of people. Where you have the process types are, of course, of course we have the had the right process. Of course we had the right result because we followed the correct process. They're very thorough in the way that they read and compartmentalize and understand and break down information. They're people who are going to have a lot of specific steps and ways that they go about things. These are going to be people who are going to be more thorough, and so they're going to be more specific and definitely more specialized, I would say. In specific ways of which they get work done. Maybe not specialized in their interests, but in the manner at which they work. I definitely think that your process, because then again, I'm seeing the thoroughness and the way that you go about the processes. You're very specific in the way that you go about things. You're very like elaborative. So it's like when I'm asking you a lot of these questions, breaking them down pretty specifically and then like deconstructing all the components, and then we have a typing session that's kind of going an hour, so it's a little bit on the long side. But I definitely think that I've seen very good examples of you that it's like, okay, well, it depends on what you mean. There's all sorts of context, there's all sorts of variables that are being weighed, and so then you're not just wanting to be like, okay, well, what's the minimum information that I need to do to output information? That's not it. You're being very specific, and so I think that's definitely where the process is sort of kicking in. And by the way, that has nothing to do with TI or TE or the elements themselves. It has more to do with the benefit rings, I would say.
Alright. I need to read the damn book, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, see, there it is. There's your process. It's flaring up right there. It's like, I need to have my hands on the information. You're not willing to accept my information. You want to know the information for yourself. You want to have your hands on the data. All right. Now we're going to move on
I
to...
feel like I use both TI and TE. I don't know. Well, I've been terrible at typing myself, so I don't know. Because sometimes I look at like reviews a lot or videos of other people that tell me, but they explain why too. Yeah, maybe that's why. Because they'll like cut the shoe in half and they'll explain why this one's better than that one. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I'm
But
just bad at typing myself, so I'll leave my hands out of it.
you do use all 8 of the elements. I mean, the polar, that one's kind of nebulous of how much people use it or not. But actually, the type that I'm awarding you, especially with a subtype, you could alternate between these two. Uh, Basically, because I'll describe your TI's in the position of where you wear it like a mask. And I'll just get into further detail about that later.
All right. Do you think I'm healthy, like well-rounded? Because I think that might be an explanation why I'm having such a hard time typing myself. That or I'm just like shitty at typing myself. I don't know.
I would say that you're relatively healthy. It seems like that you're pretty well accomplished and you've got good goals and objectives and means of actually getting to those goals. I would say that you're relatively healthy. I definitely think that you're gauging. Well, maybe this could also be because there might be some shared things between us where it's like when you're talking about when you have conflict with others, you're talking about the functioning of the other people around you being highly determinant on the quality of information. I mean, there's just like one example of where I think that you probably do have a degree of health, that it's not like that you can get, that you're not being too biased in the way that you're going about that. But that could also just be your type. And I can explain that as well. Um,
Okay.
but that some people answer that one in very different ways. I know TE polar people. I remember they were being very logical and very reasonable the whole time. Showing off their mobilizing TI. And then when I asked them the constructive criticism, they're like, and it was like then they smacked me in the face with their FE. It was really funny. Um, but yeah.
Well, um, you say FE. Now, I did mention how I use FI a lot too, like because I feel like I use both. Where I use it for like motivation and like I let myself feel good about something if it's like conducive to like a partner or even like just like to meet like some thing that I think is going to benefit me in my life. Well, anyway, let's just I want to hear you out. I just want
Yeah,
to talk.
I would say the fact that you're so specific with the emotion is kind of an indication of that. Um, Excuse me. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the next dichotomy. I don't want to talk too much about the elements themselves until we get to that actual portion. Um, this is dynamic versus static. This is within the MBTI type code. This is the J versus P. But of course, socionics describes things differently. Um, so with dynamic versus static, you were going to have for static types people who are going to be basically taking a sliver of the information and then expounding as much as they can off of that specific sliver of information. They're going to be people who are going to form strong opinions that are sort of independent, that are kind of fed broadly, and so they're gonna every time that they update their understanding of things, the updating is destroying what was and recreating it entirely. So it's like they'll say that these two things are separate completely is one of the things that you'll hear where it's like the dynamics are more so tying it all together. Um, the dynamics, on the other hand, are people who are going to see things as fluidly moving through stages. So they're going to see it as in a constant state of flux, and they're going to be more so focused, especially on the way that they get their information. And it's not going to be so personal. It's going to be more general and more accepting, and they're going to be more prone to researching in that specific manner where it's impersonal. So I definitely think that you are static, so that you are taking that sliver of information and then expounding upon it as much as possible. Um, I I don't think I necessarily have like a super good amount of examples to like corroborate this, other than that your struggles seem like dynamic struggles. So you're struggling with the dynamic part of yourself, even though I think that you're more balanced with your dynamic part of yourself than other representatives of your type. Specifically, I'll talk about with the subtype and what that means for it. But you have an interesting subtype. It's actually a subtype that means that you're more balanced with what you need to move towards through your life, kind of automatically. I would say, where it's like my subtype is more differentiated. I'm more skewed. You're more balanced. I would say. So yeah, I definitely.
Like a good thing.
I think that's kind of like my best. Yes, yeah. But I would say that's kind of like probably the best example that I have of like your staticness is the fact that you struggle with dynamic things. And it's very you talked a lot about that about the time scales and the other things, and for example it's like, how do I get how do I seek things, how do I get things accomplished? Well, depends on how much it means to me, right? And so you see the personal nature of you relating to the information, and it's not just kind of like objective. So objective, oh my god, I shouldn't use objective. I even denigrate the use of objective in that manner. I don't know why I slipped up there. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the quadras. And so I typically use the political question to kind of I shouldn't say that. The algorithm is going to destroy me for saying that word. But so I use the dictatorship question. So basically I found your answers were very aristocratic, and then they were also very differentiated. And so you're telling me across multiple domains of how you improve the general state and welfare of the people. It's like what you're talking about, what's unifying, it's the ethics, it's the emotions. That's what you're unifying with, right? So it's like you want to talk about the things that are improving humanity, and then you're talking about all the separate domains. And so it's like there's the FINE, right? There's the NF blocking. So it's that's one of the primary things that the primary things that I'm seeing. I find with NF deltas in particular that the NF deltas are much more willing to be the arbiter of decision making as opposed to, because they're static. The dynamic deltas, the ST deltas, I think are much more open ended. You'll, especially when you see the higher TE get into play, that they'll say that I'm not the ultimate arbiter of information, that I need to go seek information from somebody who's expert, because the TE is like looking at things is how do you get the thing accomplished, and so it's not personally looking at the information but looking externally, filling in the object by the external understanding of it. And by the way, which was how I was seeing you delineate your logical side a lot more, was through that manner. By the way, I'll get into that a little bit more, but
I do feel like I do both of those. I will say that. I definitely feel like I do both. That's why it's one of fucking insanely hard to type myself.
yeah.
Let's continue.
Yes. So I definitely see that that's kind of a pattern that you see with Delta and Fs. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm placing you in Delta. That and a lot of your questions were symbolic of SI. I in fact, in the beginning, was thinking that you might have a subtype that's correlated with SI, such as myself. I don't believe that to be the case anymore. I think that blocking is more magnified, not the SI.
What swayed you that wasn't the case? Not that I even know what that means, to be honest, but I'll figure it out and listen to the recording possibly.
So basically the dominant subtype are people who are going to be much more external with the way that they get information. So they're going to look at basically how things are going on externally to make decisions, much more than focusing on the internal. And so I saw that your external decision making, you picking up on social cues and these other things, the way that you accomplish goals and such, was much more boosted than your perception of basically how things are interconnected, if that makes sense. So your judgment calls were externally based in comparison to other representatives of this type. Not saying that that's what you are best at. I'm saying it's what you lean towards. If that makes sense. So now we're gonna.
I think so. All right, continue.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to the blockings and the elements contained within those blockings. Man, I should have done research because I keep hearing it differently. I keep hearing the way that people say this to be different, and I need to know if I'm doing it wrong or not, so I'm not putting the incorrect information. I will put this in the comments for people listening to it if this gets posted, if I said this incorrectly or not. Because, quite frankly, I keep hearing it differently, and I swear, I've read it. I should know, but people keep... I don't know. I keep... Okay, so we're going to start with the id blocking, which I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's what it is. I don't know if this is the id or the super id. I don't know why. Maybe it's in different systems that it's described in different ways, and that's what's actually throwing me off, and I knew what it was originally, and I got set off track or something. But, so basically, with the id blocking, these are going to be elements that are going to be strong but unvalued. Please forgive me if I'm getting this incorrect. So these are going to be things that you're going to do well when you do them, but you're going to find them somewhat uninteresting, and then you're going to switch to things that are more interesting first before you get around to these.
In what number would these be in, like as far as order?
This is basically we're talking about the seventh.
I just looked it up to double check for you.
Well,
What is it?
It's the 7 and 8, the ignoring and demonstrative.
Yes, it is 7 and 8.
Oh.
Yeah.
But what was the name of the blocking?
It's id.
Id. Okay, so I do have it correct. I posted those other ones incorrectly. I'm gonna have to correct myself before the real socionics nerds come out and put me on a cross. But thank you so much, Q. I appreciate that. But yes, this is 7 and 8. I know that I'm starting with like the last ones first. Funny enough. But I'm doing this because I believe that the way that I explain it makes it more interesting to the person who's listening. I think it's more compelling in this manner. So I don't start with it going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I start basically going basically I believe it's like 8, 7 8, 7 yeah, 8, 7 3 no 8 7 4 3 and then I go 1 2 then I go 1 2 5 6. It's a very weird way that I actually go about it, but I'm doing this because I think that this is more compelling, and I'm starting with highest in dimensionality, so highest in resolution, and then I start with the unvalued. So these are not the face. These are not what you move towards. This is the parts of yourself that are unconscious but still exist. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So with the id blocking, yeah, I went through that. So we're going to start with the demonstrative element. This is going to be 4-dimensional unvalued, and it will be number 8, I believe the demonstrative is, because it is not rigid. So with the demonstrative, this is going to be an element that is so strong that it's kind of the person can be a good representative of this without specifically using this to make sense of the world. So that this is going to be basically something that the person can do well. They don't directly implicate in the way that they talk about things. And so the demonstrative that I believe that you have is going to be NI. So basically demonstrative NI are people who are going to see things kind of leading out and trailing into the future. They're going to see the steps and how to get to the results, but they're going to be cynical of that. They're going to be like cynical of their own ability to manifest things. So this is like refusing to make decisions. You know, this is like, you know, I can't know that for sure. And so it's like you choose not to make these decisions that can have longer term implications. But people who have demonstrative NI are going to be people who are going to be very capable of looking at things as they go out into the future. So you were telling me certain far-sighted things, particularly when I'm talking to you about the NI questions, that you're talking about that you can look way out into the future, but that you're also talking about the way that you manage and deal with timescales by like writing things down and setting timers and reminders. I mean, I know that's not specifically what you're saying, but these are more SI related things than they are NI related things. NI people tend to be more fluid in their understanding of when things come and different steps and orders. They don't necessarily need to regiment themselves, but might actually regiment their environment if there's a point or purpose to it, but they don't do the regimentation for the sake of the environment, but for the sake of the goal or the specific thing that they're trying to seek or manifest. And so that's kind of why I think that it's like, okay, well, I'm seeing good examples of you being farsighted. So it's like good examples of you having four dimensionality in I, but you're not giving me good examples of you feeling fluid in time. In fact, with dynamic things, you're struggling. And so also you're struggling with some NI things, and then you're using the SI to kind of block it up. So this is why I thought that you're not SI related in your subtype, because you didn't give me a very enthusiastic NI answer specifically. And then you gave me very positive results on the other two elements associated with, relatively speaking, positive, that I associate with your subtype. So, yeah, I definitely think that you're demonstrative NI because of that farsighted nature, because of your lack of ability to fluidly work with timescales, trust the process to leading to certain goals that you have, if that makes sense.
Right. I only feel like I did like set up this timer thing within the last 2 years. I've never done anything like that in the past, but noted.
Yes, well, that's like a
Ah,
degree of individuation, but it's like the way that you're dealing with your timescales is in an SI way, of course.
ah,
But yeah, um, but definitely I think you're farsighted, and definitely the rational type is where you're actually following through with your plans. It's not just seeing where it could end up. It's like you actually following through. That's where the rationality comes in. So I definitely don't think you're like NI base or anything. So we're gonna move on to the ignoring. So the ignoring function is rigid in comparison to the demonstrative. Um, it is also a function that the person is going to not really use that much. I believe that this one is boosted due to your subtype, so you might actually have some pretty good usage of this. So this is going to be something that a person can only use for short periods of time to good effect, ultimately get tired of doing it and will focus on other things. The demonstrative is just somewhere in the ethos constantly. This one's more like an on and off switch. So I believe that your ignoring is FE, but I think that your FE is also boosted. I think you're pretty good with it. So basically what you see with ignoring FE, this is a person who can be kind of lighthearted or positive or emotionally expressive and kind of interacting with others in a very fluid way, but they're going to run out of energy to do this, and then they're going to kind of fall back onto kind of being more insular and introverted and kind of patient and polite and these sort of things, instead of just focusing purely on like humor and reaching out to others. But you seem to be pretty fairly aware of like the emotions of other people, and that you're very willing to kind of negotiate with that and have a high degree of connection with people. And it's not on the perception side. It's on you making decisions, right? It's like the actions you take on the result of those perceptions, rather than you just understanding it yourself, like me, who is a harmonizing subtype. And so I'm very sensitive to people, but I'm not responsive to people because I'm not dominant like I suspect you are. I know I already said you're freaking subtype, but whatever. We'll test it. I'm pretty sure you are, and Q was as well. So that's kind of interesting. Not that she listed that specifically. And sorry, I haven't read the rest of the messages yet, Q. Now we're gonna does that kind of all resonate? Does that make sense?
yeah, and I'm gonna re-listen to it during the recording and whatnot.
Okay, well, fantastic. Um, Now we're gonna move on to the superego. The superego blocking is basically going to be the elements that you are going to reject, and that other people are going to reject you for. So these are going to be things that you're like, okay, well, that's not necessarily what's good, or you're going to be kind of critical with these elements, and then you're just going to shy away from them because not only are they not strong, but they're unvalued. So you don't put a lot of faith into these. Um, we're going to start with the role, which is two-dimensional unvalued. The role function is the mask function that I was talking about that the person can kind of wear. And so in comparison to the ignoring, both the ignoring and the role are sort of rigid in their application, but the role is actually used more often than the ignoring, but is also used to less of a good effect. And so this is the mask that you wear at specific times for like vocations and such. This could be like the way that you go about business and such. So this is where you are using your TI. I believe that your role is TI. And so what you're going to basically find with role TI is that this is going to be a person who can be very dense in their understanding of things, but also somebody who's not going to be very confident in those things. So this is going to be somebody who's going to take a lot of time to come to specific conclusions. So, for example, like you take a lot of time to research things. And then when I'm talking about, well, how do you objectively value these objects? Well, you're telling me that you compare the objects to other objects of similarities, not necessarily the object itself, but where it places in the running of other things. And there's where you're doing the external thing with how you gauge objects rather than the internal thing. But you're telling me that you are using TI within certain situations. I would definitely say that people will witness my TI use a lot, and my TI is in the same position as you, probably to the same effect, because we're probably using it in the same resolution
Is
because of our subtype.
what it how is TI compared to TI and MBTI? Are they opposites?
In some ways, yes. Like, I mean, like subjective logic is something that people kind of use as like to describe an MBTI. I think that's stupid. I'd probably say personal logic makes more sense, but even then, the personal nature of it gives way to the objective nature of the logic itself. So TI users are going to be basically distilling information down to its finest point or its more fundamental principles. And so they're going through a very like complex way of understanding the thing, but the output of the data itself, the way that they describe it, is very simple. And so I think that in MBTI, it's often like, oh, well, you have this like complexity due to your like introverted nature and the way that you are with logic. Where I think TI in socionics, I'm sorry, I'm just really not familiar with TI and MBTI as much, but TI in socionics is much more about being concise and about the information being objective, and it's said to be correlated with laws. Maybe not directly, but within some cases, especially in the Western world, I think in the Eastern world, like where socionics is developed, it makes way more sense. But so it's like that this thing is so fundamental that we can make a law or principle out of it. Like Albert Einstein is a great example of this, with all of his laws and fundamental principles of how things operate. You see communism, for example, with the way that it's like we are fundamentally applying the TI, so the ST variant of the TI being applied in order to achieve the NF goals, and so we have all of the procedures and applications and such, and you see that a lot with the way that Russia is operated. Russia is a very TI heavy country. That's kind of how I'm describing TI. Does that make sense? Did I over explain it?
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay, excellent. So the way that you can describe things as fundamental principles or laws is something that you probably are going to do a lot, but it's like going to be like how you actually manifest things is not going to be that representative of it. So you can use TI, but you're not a good representative of it, if that makes sense. Because the role function is a load-bearing function, but it is not your bread and butter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Now we're going to move on. Oh, wait a second. I forgot to. No, I did go through some examples of what you were saying. So now,
Question actually. What order would TI be in under this type? I suppose.
TI is going to be 3. It's going to be number 3 in socionics.
All right.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to the polar, which is number 4. So the polar is the point of least resistance. So this is where this person's, or vulnerable, as some people call it. They call it the vulnerable element. But so the role is where information is, or like application is just not going to really work. So you can learn a lot about this element. You can understand a lot with this element. The application of it is just null. So it's like, you can pontificate about it a lot. You actually do the thing, not really. This is going to be basically what the person kind of refuses to do. Then you're going to see all 7 of the other elements kind of bend in the way to cover this one. The role is going to communicate much more with the creative than its own blocking of the polar because of the lack of resolution of the polar. So that's where it's the mask that you're putting on for the role function. So
I'm sorry. What did you say the role function was?
the role
I
was
didn't catch
TI
that.
for you.
Was what? All right. So that's still the third one. Got you. Sorry,
And
I kind of lost you for a moment there, but I'll watch the replay.
yeah, this is number 4 that we're talking about, the polar now. So I believe that your polar is SE. So polar SE is going to be denoted by basically somebody who's kind of self-absorbed, who's going to be not really focused so much on the external nature of things, but more so their impression of things. They're not going to be super willing to push other people around or to force other people to do things. They're going to be much more about reasoning or discussing or using the ideas as examples. You know, you're talking about like you can offer suggestions. So there's the example of you using your any, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Where instead of you talking about that, it's like, do I force people to do things, especially in conflict? Not really. And you're saying that I am so much more willing to talk about it and to have good communication. And then, see, you want to make up for the SE with the TE. Instead of you just using the TE and just actually just telling the person to shut up or pushing them out of the way. That's not what you're going to do. You're not going to gauge the surroundings. You're not going to see if you have the high ground. You're not going to see if you can manipulate or coerce the people around you. The ideas do that. The communication does that. There's all these other things that are in the way that are covering this blind spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, did you say SE or NE?
This is SE.
Alright.
I was saying,
And polar is alright, alright. I did hear exactly what you said.
okay, yeah, because I was saying that I was giving an example of the any bending and flexing to get in the way of the SE, if that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
That's the ideas. So now we're gonna move on to Unura. Wait, I fucked that up. I'm not gonna say it. Number one, this is the base. This is going to be basically. It's wait no, I forgot to talk about the blocking. I'm so silly. I think I do that quite a bit. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the ego blocking. So the ego blocking is going to be the strong and valued elements. This is going to be the face that you have to the world, what other people look for you, and the roles that you fulfill in society. So
Okay.
we're going to start with the leading four-dimensional valued base function. So with the base, you're gonna see that this person is a very good representative of this function or element. I know I kind of use those words interchangeably. Of what this person cannot leave, what they will always represent, and how they always make the sense of the world from. This is like their home. This is their foundation. This is who they are. I think in your case that this is FI. So with FI in the base position, this is going to be somebody who's going to be focused on their impression or understanding of things. That they are going to form very nuanced and specific opinions on the basis of a lot of weighing, comparing and contrasting, a lot of seeing a lot of seeing different perspectives or sides or views and sort of things like that. So this is like you spending a lot of time to weigh the information, and then you can't necessarily describe things super clearly, but you're also very in touch with yourself. I find that a lot of FI users are going to externalize a lot in order to reflect back and to understand. They're not going to be people who are going to be like, yes, I am this or I am that. It's like, I need some time to know what that means. I need to know what that means for myself. And these are basically going to be people who are going to need to be themselves, even when the external world is applying structure on them. So basically the TI role or the TE suggestive, that they're going to have to resort to the FI in order to have clarification and balance. And then once they have that union with their emotions, they're going to be much more effective as people. And it's going to be that makes them effective. They're not going to be people of clarity. They're not going to be people of being able to describe things super specifically, but they're going to be people so much more of expression, of beauty, of self-representation, of being an advocate for yourself or for the underdog or for the people that you resonate with, because FI is all about relations. So you can see how your words affect the people around you before you can even say them. That's a very good example of FI. You can see if people are going to be getting together around you because you can see how close they are. That's an example of FI. I definitely believe that you're FI because you're taking a lot of time. You're not being super forthcoming with, or not. You're not going to be. You're not super like expressive with the way that you come to. I mean, super descriptive in the way that you come to conclusions. You know what I mean? It's not like that. It's like it is this or that. It is. There is so much to this that I could expound upon. I definitely see it in the way that you're very altruistic, in the way that you're very responsive to other people's emotions, in the way that you're very considerate of other people, because you have very high resolution in your ethics, and that's what's allowing you to do so. The way that you're sticking through to the end on a lot of your goals and a lot of the things that you want is because that FI is in the base position. So it's the things that you want and the things that you represent you can manifest and show that you are so much. And this is, it's like, how important is it to me? That's how effective I am. There's a great example of your base FI. So you're saying a lot of FI things throughout the entire consequence of what you are telling me throughout the entire typing session. Definitely think it's your FI base.
Okay, yeah, that sounded reasonable.
All
I
right.
related to a lot of that. Yeah. So in context, base is number 2 or 1
Base
or
is
3 or here we did 3 and 4. So base is 1 or 2, I think, right?
base is number one.
Oh, all right. Good stuff. Ah,
Yeah, I know it's confusing. The way that socionics is it's confusing. Now we're gonna move on to the creative. The creative is basically what you're externalizing or bringing to the table. It's not necessarily who you are, but it's what you are good at. So it's going to be what you can bring to the party, so to speak. It's like what you bring to like a potluck or like a Super Bowl party or something. So this is going to be what you're very good at, what you externalize. I mean, I basically said all that. It's also going to be kind of subservient to the base, and so it's constantly reorganizing and like reassessing and making it more palatable and like effective. So this is constantly like reassessing and recontextualizing. Um, and it can also work with the role as well and the way that it's unified. So there's the TI mask thing going on. I believe that this one for you is any. So you're going to see with any creative, this is going to be a person who's going to be very capable of bringing other perspectives or ideas or information to the table. This could be somebody who it's like, okay, well, somebody's having a problem. Well, here's some information that pertains to that. Here's a different perspectives that helps you understand. You're going to see that this is going to be a person who's going to like to travel, who's going to like to experience a lot of things differently. They're going to like to be inspired and to know more things because the any as in the ego. You're going to see people who appreciate states of head changes and mood, especially with Alpha Quadra. Alpha Quadras appreciate a good head change. But you are Delta, of course. This is, I see a lot of that and basically what you're saying. So it's like, when you're having conflict with somebody, here, let me externalize this other information or perspective. There's a perfect example, textbook example of creative any. You're saying that you're open to new ideas, that you very much enjoy traveling. It's usually a consequence of strong any, so any ego or any demonstrative or any mobilizing, for example. That this is these are things that you are that you are good like that you enjoy. This is a good expression or outlet for you because this is something that you like to be fed by. You like to have new perspectives and ideas. So yeah, that is second, your creative ego block. Now we're going to move on to the super super id. No, maybe I had that right. Maybe I'm just being silly. So with the super id, these are going to be your weak but valued. So these are going to be things that you're going to get better at over time, that you're going to find better balance with, and that you are also going to admire people who do these things well, or do something approximate to these things well. So we're going to start with the role, and so I believe that the role is number 5. So no, did I say role? I'm so dumb. Mobilizing, sorry. The mobilizing is number 5. So two-dimensional valued role. So Did I say roll again? What the fuck? Mobilizing. Sorry. So with a mobilizing, this is the social integration function. This is the thing that you are going to get visibly better at over time, and you like to show this off. It's going to be very apparent. Your SI, which is what I believe your mobilizing is, was very apparent throughout the entire course of what you were saying. So it's like organizing things, your understanding of aesthetics or beauty. These were things that you were representing pretty well, and that's what you're going to see with the mobilizing. As the mobilizing is going to be someone who is going to like to have things look nice, be comfortable, be suitable. They're going to enjoy vocation or spending time relaxing with the SI in this position. So it's like when you say that you want to look attractive, this is a great example of the SI mobilizing. You want to show off your aesthetics. When you have your room clean, this is the thing that you want to show off, the thing that you find that is fundamental. So the SI is representative of my internal state, and so I'm externalizing that onto the environment. I want to show this off. This is, what I'm eager with. But this could also be what you offend people with. So you can find that SI mobilizing, that you can also offend people by being too sensitive. You could offend people by being too lax, or basically not being too pushy. You know what I mean? Like what people want you to be. Like it's like, I want you to really go out there and make something of yourself. That they might take offense within SI in the mobilizing position. Like, oh, you're lazy, or you're this, and it doesn't necessarily mean the case. Because people with SI mobilizing can be people who actually might have their affairs in order as they get older, as you can see. So it's just it's one of those things where it's that state of flux. How well developed are you within this is going to be how well integrated you are. And I see a lot of aspirational descriptions of SI. I would like these aesthetics to be the case, and I follow through with these steps to manifest them. There's the rational, for one, and then there's the combination of the SI and the mobilizing, you taking the steps of you like setting timers and doing specific things. There's the SI coming into play, the serving, the rational needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that made sense.
Excellent. We're now going to move on to the suggestive. So basically, like your super id, what you're getting better at. So you're getting better at manifesting your dreams and goals. What's going on with Mobius? You're going to get better at manifesting your dreams and goals and making your ideals more concrete as you go through in reality, of course. Sorry, I'm describing the blocking a little bit here. Even though I probably should have started with that in the beginning. But, so suggestive is one-dimensional valued. This is number 6. So with the suggestive, this is what you are seeking, what you're going towards, what you are balancing with. So this is going to be something that you're not going to be very good at producing yourself, but you appreciate it really well when somebody brings this to high resolution to the table. That's going to be something that you find very attractive. Your suggestive is TE. So this is going to be like admiration of people who are very good at manifesting their dreams and goals at once. This is going to be dreams and goals at once. This is going to be somebody who's going to be very good at what you're looking for. Is going to be somebody who's going to be ambitious and good at achievements and such. But these are going to be things that you are going to kind of lack for yourself. And so it's like when we're talking about suggestive TE, it's like, are you open to constructive criticism? I know I ask it criticism. I ask it like that for a reason. But what you're talking about with constructive criticism is, if this information is useful, yes, I will take it on board. If you're going to help me regiment myself, by all means necessary. If that is going to help me, I will listen to it. Very great example of suggestive TE, and especially the SI, because the SI is being positive and optimistic about information, where the SE is more cynical and compartmentalizing, I would say. So you're very open to suggestion. When you're making comparisons and contrast, you're doing it more so objectively. Not necessarily to say that TI users cannot go about comparisons about usefulness of objects in a similar way, but the way that you're talking about it at the surface is much more symbolic of TE. I definitely, so I see the TE suggestive. I see the valuing of you becoming a better person a lot in what you're saying. So the delta declarative nature of wanting self-improvement, and this is, when we talk about the morality, I thought it was so funny because deltas are going to want to be self-improvers. They're going to want to be good symbols for others to look at. This is that's what they want to be. It's not that they're going to push ideas around to help others. It's going to be that they're going to be a good. Would you mind muting your mic, please? This might be going on. Bruh.
Just turn her down. Quicker.
Yeah,
I don't
that's.
think she's next to the computer, it sounds like.
Yeah, which is kind of silly.
Alright,
I had
alright.
to mute her. Basically that self-improvement is the great example to value TE. And then you leveraging that externally on other people so much. There's just really wonderful examples of TE. So yeah, has everything made sense so far?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
And so
TE sounded particularly relatable. As
Well-
far as like how I would see it. Yeah.
your TE, I believe, is probably boosted in comparison to your other functions. So that's one thing to be considerate of. But here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about your subtype because I am confident in your DCNH.
Okay.
I can send you the article so you can read it yourself if you want after this.
I appreciate that. If you could like maybe DM it to me.
Certainly. Prototype. Volunteer for a charitable organization. Dominant EII persistently achieves assigned goals that are usually socially beneficial in character and without links to personal enrichment. She is never deterred by the inherent difficulties on the long road. Her strength is in the motivation that her actions are not for herself but for other people. She respects intelligent and highly motivated individuals who are willing to support her initiatives, helping with advice and actions. She can become a faithful steward in her affairs. She is quite appreciative of personal initiative in learning and attends various courses and classes, you reading books, and which expands her horizons. Dominant EII is committed to personal growth, not just in knowledge, but also within herself. She tries to convey to others the meaning of her actions. She enjoys talking about her hobbies, valuing an intellectual atmosphere in conversation. This subtype encounters... What's that?
For the record, the whole subtype is called EII.
Dominant is what the subtype is.
All right. All right. But the other type that you gave me, the actual initials is EII? Or...
Yes. I didn't say that. I was going to wait till the end to say formally. I know, it's in the description itself, so I almost can't avoid it, but I was going to say very finally at the end what it was. But yeah.
All right. And this is dominant subtype, you were saying?
Yes, and I think this fits you like a glove.
All right.
I think this does because, honestly, that you are not deterred by difficulties in the long road. Man, you have gone on such a journey with your self-improvement, and I can just tell from everything that you said. I mean, that makes total sense. Everything that I'm reading here just makes total sense in the context of what you just told me. I mean, it's like this is what I was pretty confident in going into it, and honestly, I'm pretty confident in it now. Do you agree with everything that was in those couple paragraphs?
Yes, I do. I'm also happy with the EII because it correlates with, I believe, Key's suggested typing. So at least there's correlation finally on something.
Yes. And somebody.
So that's great.
Yeah, and somebody said that you are an EII even before we started the typing session. And lo and behold, there it is, rational delta NF. I see it very clearly. And the dominant subtype, I think, fits you like a glove. So I think we're going to go ahead and stop the recording now. I'll send you the information for you to read. The final typing is EII dominant.
All right. And delta, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I believe